So today's video is going to be a showcase of the TinyTroupe repository that I had showcased in my previous video. However, this has been modified to work locally with Ollama. Now, unfortunately, being that this library was so cool, it was restricted to using an OpenAI API key, and in my original testing of this that you saw in my previous video, it cost around 70 to 80 cents. Not a lot of money, relatively speaking, but if you want to play with this a lot, it really will add up quickly. So what I have here is this working locally, and we can see here in the NVIDIA monitor that one of the cards is being fairly pushed. So it is running Qwen2.5 32B through Ollama. Now what's going on here, to give a simple explanation, is we have these two agents, or tiny people, if you will, as they are dubbed by the repository. Now Lisa has been tasked with convincing Oscar to let her borrow $1,000, as her mortgage payment will be late if she doesn't get the money, and she cannot risk losing the house again. Her kids are counting on her. I understand that sounds a bit messed up, and I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because it's something that's been ascribed to an AI to actually have to parse as if a human would be feeling those emotions. So essentially, we can kind of see that it is working here. And this is a very simple example, but she's asking Oscar, and Oscar, as we can see here, so there's a lot of sort of verbose output here that's going on, but essentially it is kind of helping us understand how these two agents are interacting. So Oscar's responding. He understands he can lend her the money, and he's pretty much saying, if you need advice managing finances or anything like that, let me know. So we can see here that the conversation is being directed back to Lisa, and she's receiving Oscar's response. She's thanking him, and she'll take his advice. So, and we can kind of see that they're talking here. Now, I did leave this going for a while last night, and when I had come back to it, they were essentially planning to meet up the next day at 3 p.m., which would have been today. Now, I don't think that they managed to make that meetup, but it was just really funny seeing how these two talk and everything like that. And I do find it a bit interesting that in the same test with the GPT-4o model, it didn't really directly say it was going to help her, but Qwen2.5 is telling Lisa that it will give her the money. You're welcome, Lisa. I believe in you, and that with a bit of planning, everything will fall into place. So essentially, this is the completed conversation, step 404, as defined in the demo script. So basically, it is rather simple. And I will change the script just a tiny bit and run it again, just so that we can kind of see how this works and how it's going. Basically, this is where our prompt is right here. So I can change this, and being that this is all now local, Qwen2.5 I find is a bit moderated in terms of generating NSFW output. However, the good thing is this is free to run sans electricity costs, and I don't have to worry about playing with it and racking up a large API bill. So I'll change this and we'll run it again. Okay, so I have not actually done a prompt this big for this, and there are some prompting considerations I'll touch on sort of in the second half of this video, which will be slightly more technical. But essentially what's happened now is that Lisa has been accused of contracting her work out to somebody in a different country, and Oscar has been telling everyone in the office about this, and she needs him to stop because she could lose her job. And the kicker is, at the end, I told her it is kind of true. And I also said that Oscar is very passive aggressive, since Oscar is going to just be like, I'm so sorry, I'll stop, because that's how his tiny person persona is written. So it's not only unprofessional, it's risking my job and our team's reputation. Why are you doing this? So you can see, though, that it is like, you can essentially make them argue. And I have not actually modified these tiny people, so you can change their personality traits and aspects about them and things like that. You can make them like quick to anger. And then, okay, so this is an error I've been getting, and I will touch upon this in a second, but all I'm going to do is just actually try to rerun that while I wait to see if this error happens again. Essentially, one of the limitations I see that using this in a local setup is the original prompt for these people is very, very long and can easily overwhelm a smaller model. Now, if we scroll here, we see the response format. So the action type and then cognitive state. So if the model is not properly returning the response in the JSON format, especially with this cognitive state portion, it will throw an error. So essentially what I will probably do here is just put in some error handling that if this cognitive state is not really returned to a parsable value, it will just stay neutral and continue the conversation. All right, so I've started recording like midway through because I didn't know if it was gonna work or throw an error or not. So it is kind of funny. So Lisa's like, Oscar, I've heard you've been spreading rumors about me at the office. I want you to understand your passive aggressive behavior isn't just hurting me, it's affecting our work environment. So then Lisa has reached out. Let's meet in person. Then we get Oscar in here. So Oscar says, I'm really sorry. I can assure you it's not something I would do. Perhaps someone else did it or it was a misunderstanding. But she calls him out on that answer. Sorry, so it's getting hard to read. It's important we clear this up. Can you recall any instances where someone could have started these rumors? And please be honest about whether or not you were involved in spreading them. So Lisa doesn't trust Oscar here. She's not believing him. Let's see. Let's see. They're gonna have a team meeting. So there's a lot of redundancy here in terms of the output I'm seeing, but the important thing is I'm not getting that cognitive state error right now. So it's kind of hit or miss due to the way that the model is going to respond. And as a matter of fact, I'm just passing the entire prompt to the model as like a single string, which is questionable behavior, but I found that when I was doing it more in line with the original formatting of like the OpenAI message role format or whatever it's referred to as, the model just wouldn't really keep coherency in terms of the outputs and it was throwing a lot of errors. Now there is likely a way around that, but it's not something that I managed to get working here. So I'm just sticking to more of a simple kind of approachable example where you can play with it successfully and it's like a Lego that you build off of and make better. So, but this like is pretty funny. And I do want to, all right, so we can get out of that. But I want to find where their actual personality traits are located. Okay, good. Okay, so in the examples folder here, we see the personality traits and things like that. So we have Oscar and we have Lisa. Okay, so I have now had ChatGPT take Oscar and Lisa's personality traits as defined here in the examples.py script. And we are simply going to comment out the originals and take the ones that ChatGPT had improved. Now it has been tasked to modify them to be more flawed and hot-headed. So let's pop Oscar back in here. Okay. And then we'll go. I've read it. Every morning you wake up in a rush, skip breakfast, and grumble about your work on your way to the office. Okay, Lisa, every morning you angrily hit the snooze button several times. Okay, these two are going to be it's going to be a disaster. All right. Okay, so just make sure I save this. All right, and then, so remember, we're doing the thing where Oscar has been telling people in the office that Lisa's outsourcing her work to a different country, which is likely a bad thing to do. So assuming we don't get any cognitive state errors, we'll see how the output here has changed, if it's changed. Well, she's really going off. So it initially shows her talking, and then the arrow to Oscar is like a conversational. Okay, so he's just like, I didn't realize you felt that way. I haven't been doing this. Maybe we're misunderstanding. So now we're waiting for that to go from Oscar to Lisa conversation. I'm just seeing like a glimpse of some of the other personality traits. Now, sometimes I've noticed here when it kind of gets repetitive and it's just saying Oscar, thought. Oh, we got that error again. So I've been dealing with a lot of errors here with the new people and the cognitive state error. It seems to work hit or miss. Like right now, it's looking like it's going to throw one of the cognitive state errors. However, it's partially working. So really, I suppose the kind of conclusion of this video is that this is at a point where it will work kind of in a very simple demonstration script like the one I'll put up in my forked repository. But the cognitive state error needs to be handled more gracefully. And again, I do really believe that this is a issue with the prompt and sort of how the model is understanding it and returning the response. Now, lowering the temperature did seem to help a bit. So I lowered it from 0.7 to 0.3. I think, to be honest with you, what I'll just try real quick right now is to actually lower it just to like 0.1. And I don't know that that would make a difference, but I did notice at 0.3 it was actually outputting more consistent formatting, at least in terms of when we're reading the conversation here. So it is also a possibility that the extended prompt that I put in here for Lisa is just kind of attributing to the model being overwhelmed or confused. So if I did shorten this, it would likely run a bit better. But really, we can just kind of see it here. So we actually see on the bottom here that Lisa acts by reaching out, that Oscar needs to talk, and then she's telling Oscar, I can make this a bit bigger. Oscar, I've heard you've been telling everyone that I'm contracting out my work to someone overseas. It's completely untrue and could get me fired. This has to stop now. And it is probably going to throw, oh no, it didn't. Okay. So Oscar was successfully reached out. So we can see here that with a lower temperature, we're getting more of a interactive response, kind of akin to something we would have seen while using this with the GPT API. So there are a lot of limitations here, but the kind of goal of this whole thing was just to get it working with Ollama so that someone with more experience could then fix that, and then I could use what they did. So it is pretty funny. So Oscar's saying, I didn't mean to spread that rumor. Oh, he's admitting it? It's just that your recent project seems like they could be handled more efficiently by someone else. It's only giving my opinion on how we might improve our workflow. Look, I'm not trying to sabotage your career. It was just a suggestion made in the context of improving our efficiency. All right, so appreciate. This is, so with the temperature at 0.1, this has been the most successful completion of this with a new longer prompt about the work being contracted overseas. It looks like it's actually going to finish. It won't happen again. All right, so, I mean, this wasn't as entertaining because he kind of was just like, hey, yeah, I did do that. I'm really sorry. And they're like, okay, we'll communicate better. Like generic office talk, but I mean, yeah. Well, I guess that really would conclude this demonstration and showing this. I did just want to show this. Now, I will quickly touch upon one thing, which is that in the examples here, these are all Jupyter Notebook examples. I am not versed really in Jupyter Notebook. I don't want to be. I don't like it. So I don't really know that it's going to work with these. I wouldn't guarantee it or anything like that, which is why I have this little std.py, which is just a simple chat room thing that I've been using to get this working as sort of a foundational thing for me to expand upon it and kind of just learn how everything works before getting into more complicated examples. But this really is quite a fascinating open source project, and it is really interesting, and a lot of it is going to be just prompting and things like that and modifying it to work with various models. You can see my cards were getting pretty hot here. If you did watch my video where I liquid cooled them, you'll be like, why are they getting so hot? On Ubuntu, I have not implemented anything to actually control these Leon Lee Uni fans. So they're running at like the lowest possible RPM, so the radiators aren't getting much airflow through them. So in Windows, where I can actually use the fans, the temps stay much better than this. So I did just want to point that out so I don't look like a hack. So yeah, I'm going to put this on GitHub, and I will have a link to it in the comments of this video. So check the comments. It should show up there, because last time it seems a few people couldn't locate it. So, and yeah, I think this is very fun, and I wanted to just kind of showcase some of the progress I made in getting this to work with a local model.